Take a break from online dating and do this instead. Why a matchmaker might change your love life. And I'm so excited to have my number one favorite matchmaker in the house, Julie Furman from Cupid's Coach. Excuse me. Hey, Julie.
Jonathan, I love you. Thank you for having me as your guest. And hello to all your people who love you too.
Folks, I've known Julie for about 15 years now. And I met her, I met her at a homie hookup, but which is for a bunch of relationship coaches. And over the years, I've developed a dear friendship with this lady. And I'm sharing her to you because I truly believe that there's really only one matchmaker out there that has the kind of integrity Julie has. And I mean that with sincerity. So let's talk about the matchmaking industry, Julie.
Oh, rock and roll. I got all things to say about it. 35 years I've been doing this. What do you want to know?
Well, you and I were well, then let's get into the nitty gritty because we
Go
think
for
there's
it.
some sort of, there is kind of this for profit driven within the organization that really only cares about getting you their money and not about really finding you love. Can you lean into that for a little bit?
Yeah, I think that the dating agencies and the matchmaking companies and the individual matchmakers set out to do good in the world. I think they do. They see that there's a profit opportunity, but I think what happens sometimes is they'll get sort of hooked up, like caught up in the profit part. And what I realized made me uncomfortable after so many years of doing this is the transactional nature of it. You know, there's a hope for love, there's a desire for the love, and it's not happening, and everything's falling apart, and nothing's working. And there's this promise that this matchmaker is going to just introduce you to the perfect person, and you don't have to swipe anymore, and you don't have to. So they're preying on the vulnerabilities of people who are putting their hard-earned dollars, but also their energy, their psychic energy, their heart muscle into the dating process. And often it's a disappointment. No matchmaker can promise relationship.
Sure.
Even the best matchmakers, it's a rare occasion that you actually have a marriage. Given all the people in the community and all the people who've ever paid, it's rare. And so I just built systems differently. You know, Jonathan, but maybe your listeners don't. I married my own matchmaker, right?
Okay. Yeah, I do know Gil.
So he owned a dating agency, and all I was to him when I walked into his agency in St. Louis in 1990 was his next 1450 PIF, paid in full, right?
Okay, paid in full.
That's all I was to him. And I was so excited because I had tried everything else first. We didn't have online dating. We had personal ads. I put together all kinds of parties. I had a dating coach before we even had dating coaches. And I tried everything, and I didn't know what I didn't know. That's why the dating coach was important, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Had my friend Manuel, who took me on like a project, had he not told me, honest to goodness, all the ways in which I was messed up, I wouldn't have likely made the choice that I did to marry Gil. So I walk into this agency, he takes my money, and then finally I get to look through the books, right? I get to see who's there. I paid my $1,450 and everything.
Yeah.
Oh my God, there was nobody too exciting. And they had just opened their doors. And I'm thinking, oh my God, I've been taken. Oh my God, why did I fall for that? Oh my God, what am I, an idiot? But then I knocked on Gil's door. He probably thought I was trying to get a refund, which never occurred to me. I'm not a refund kind of girl. And I said, so what's the story with you? I looked in the G book under Gil and you weren't there. And we had a great interview. You know, we had a lot of fun, 3-hour interview. It doesn't take 3 hours to sell a dating service membership. So he said, well, I'm not supposed to ask out my members. And I said, well, what if one of your members asked you out? And he said, if she was cute, I'd probably go. I said, come on, let's go have a beer. And 5 weeks later, we got engaged. And 5 months later, we got married. And 2 months after that, we got pregnant with Alex, who's 33. Then came Kevin, who's 31. Now I'm charged with the responsibility to find women for both of my boys. They're both in my database. Along with
I love it. You know, having a mom who's a matchmaker, way to go.
Well, they thought it was gay. They thought it was really horrible and awful, and they would roll their eyes. But now they're pretty motivated. Like, Mom, don't you think there's somebody in your database for me? It's really cute.
You know, I need to have my son contact you. So we need to
please. I love taking care of people's mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, children. One thing we haven't mentioned that your listeners are going to be so happy to hear about, Jonathan. I have a community service division of my company.
Yeah.
And more than half of the introductions I do here from my desk are free. And
Yeah.
who do I look to provide them for? Anybody who's done my little consultation, my little Zoom consultation where we look at people together, I run a search. I'm happy to provide introductions when I can for those people, people in my boot camps, people who show that they're interested in growing, the people who listen to you, Jonathan.
Yeah.
They're interested in growing and doing dating well. These are the people I'll go to the ends of the earth to try to match them.
And by the way, for everybody, and I'm speaking from personal experience. Julie does these things called mitzvah matches where she puts two people together that she thinks would be a great fit. There's no charge for it. Certainly, those have been have gone through a consultation and whatnot. But one of the things I so admire about you is you're not about the money. You're about the connection. You are about the love. You really care. And as you're sharing the story about Gil, I'm not sure if you know that I actually met my now ex-wife, but I met her through a matchmaking service in 1990. So
Wow.
at the same time you met Gil, I met my ex-wife.
Wait, what was the company?
You know what? I can't even remember. It was a video dating service, I should say. It was a
So
video
like
dating.
a knockoff of Great
Yeah,
Expectations.
it was exactly a knockoff of Great Expectations. I get this flyer on my doorstep, and it was like about 5 miles from where I live. I did a videotape. I did a video, and it turns out. So they called me and said we have a gal that would be perfect for you. And it turns out I knew her because she was a cocktail waitress at Cheesecake Factory. And I used to see her. And I think I had even asked her out once. But then when we did the dating service and
Okay,
decades,
so let me ask you a question.
yeah,
She was a cocktail waitress, at least at one point. I'm
yeah.
guessing they gave her a free membership because they needed good looking girls in
You know,
order to sell
I
memberships to the men.
back then it was so green, so new. I don't think they even thought of that. By the way,
I bet they did. I know
well,
they
maybe they
did.
did,
We used to
but
give
you know
free
what?
memberships to cute
It,
girls and professional men that.
Yeah. By the way, she was in school to become a CPA, and she was working as a CPA part. So the cocktailing was the part time gig. And she and I are still now dear friends with one another. So I want to come back to the matchmaking industry because okay, couple things. The title is Take a Break from Online Dating. I think people are just radically burnt out with the online way of connecting, swiping over and over, connections that don't go anywhere. And what I like, and I've used your service before in the sense that you've over the years sent me people, wasn't a perfect fit. A couple people I went out with a few times, but like anything, you can't guarantee a match. But I do believe that matchmaking is going to grow in the next decade because of the burnout in online dating. I mean, what's your thoughts about
Oh,
that? I mean,
I
do you
I would pray. I know that alternative methods for people to connect will be growing.
yeah,
The direction that the matchmaking industry is going right now,
okay,
that's not where I want people to go. Because
okay,
what's happened is the matchmakers have sort of banded together and decided, well, everybody should be charging $40,000, $50,000. And people
okay,
are coming straight out of a weekend class in New York charging $20,000, $50,000. I'm the most reasonable matchmaker I know. I've been doing this for 35 years. But what I really am passionate about is for people to do it on their own. Like in my
yeah,
boot camp, I teach people flirting techniques. What do you say to the cute guy at the car wash? What do you
yeah,
do? And that's where I'm really excited. And all the people who've done this boot camp, they're all growers. They're all interested in personal growth and development. They want to be good humans. They want to have a great relationship. They're willing to do the work that it takes to examine our strengths and our weaknesses, all the bad things that have happened. Uh-oh, what was my part in that? And when communication is awful, uh-oh, did I do something there?
yeah,
If we're willing to look at those things and take a stand and say, I'm going to be better than that, I'm going to be bigger than that, we've
yeah,
got a chance. Otherwise, we're going to have the same kind of relationships over and over again if you don't realize why you chose inappropriately. If you don't really look at it, you're going to do it again.
Sure. And by the way, everyone, Julie's Boot Camp is something where I've been a guest speaker on. And before I forget, there's a link in the show notes. If you want to connect with Julie, I highly recommend it. I highly, highly recommend it. But I've been a guest on her boot camp to share to her community. And what you're one of those, like, you're just like a big sister. You just give everybody a big hug, and you're like, you're part of my family the
Yeah.
minute I connect with you, and you go out of your way to help people, just even help them in their dating process, not necessarily finding love, but there's a level of personal development that goes on in your work, and you and I are both Hoffman graduates. I
Yeah.
talk about the Hoffman process
Yeah.
incessantly in my
Mm.
videos, talking
Mm.
about the importance of doing inner work, because as you know, if you haven't really done the inner work, a relationship isn't going to solve those problems if you aren't working on yourself. So I want to shift gears. We talked right before we went live, and we talked about the movie Materialist. And we were talking, and for those that don't know, it's a movie about matchmaking and matchmaking services. And there's a scene where this one woman pulls out this resume of what she's looking for in a man. And I mean, it's like 4 pages typed from top to bottom. I want to talk about unrealistic expectations for a moment. And from your vantage point, can you lean into this and talk about it?
Yeah, I actually don't care how long somebody's list is. I love those brainstorming sessions. I've had people come into my office with like 4 pages of yellow legal pad with lists. I
Yeah.
don't care how long the list is. It's great to envision the qualities that we really want. But I always want to know, what are your top three? I've asked you this before, I'm sure,
Yeah.
Jonathan. The top three things you'd rather be single forever than
Yeah.
partner with somebody who didn't have those elements.
Yeah.
Sometimes if somebody has a lot of what we call romantic market value, they have a lot of elements of appeal, I might let them have four or maybe even five, but not
Yeah.
more than that.
Yeah.
Because the biggest mistake we make in dating, especially women,
Yeah.
we the biggest mistake we make is when we veto, dismiss, discard, toss in the trash, or otherwise overlook a
Yeah.
potentially really good man for something that's secondary.
Yeah.
Like, I wish he was taller. He's not tall enough for me. He's not good looking enough for me. I think I make more money than him. I have more education than him. These are all things that might matter, or
Yeah.
they voted different than me. That very rarely comes in the top three.
Yeah.
Very rarely. More important, the most common for women are, when we really boil it down, it's trustworthiness,
Yes.
integrity, character, that piece.
Yeah.
Kindness. I'd rather be alone forever than partner with somebody who wasn't kind and thoughtful, the person who cuts everybody off in traffic, the person who's mean to the waiter, the person who disregards me, right?
Yeah.
I'd rather be alone.
Yeah.
And then the third thing usually has something to do with the fun factor, shared values, shared
Yeah.
passions, but it's never height. So you know what I started doing?
Yeah.
I stopped revealing your height on your profile, Jonathan.
Oh,
I don't
did you
reveal it
really?
anymore. Yeah, I did. I don't
Oh,
reveal it
I
anymore.
can't.
You have no more advantage, darling. You're just like
Okay.
everybody else now.
Oh my God, my greatest assets is I'm 6'2" and have a full head of hair, and I don't color my hair either.
And do you know the percentage of men who are 6'2" or taller?
I think 6'2". Is it
It's like
3%?
3.8%.
Yeah,
And
3.8%.
6 feet or taller is like 13%.
Yeah.
It's not normal. And so the problem with online dating, as you well know, Jonathan, is that attractive women, anybody who's pursued a lot, they
Yeah.
have to filter. Otherwise, it's a full time job. Even
Yeah.
so, it's a full time job. So, what do they filter for? They filter for income, which doesn't always mean that they're financially responsible, right?
Sure.
I know a
Sure.
lot of millionaires next door, a
Yeah.
lot of them. Also, they filter for height, they filter for education, income, all that stuff. Who's been married? All those people. Oh, if he's never been married, oh, forget it. That's a red flag.
By the way, I had one woman. Okay, after my divorce and I sold my house, I got rejected because I didn't own a home anymore.
It's so stupid. When a man gets divorced,
Yeah.
who usually gets the house? It's usually the mom and the
Yeah.
kid
Yeah.
get the house, and
Yeah.
the guy just takes it. Like, he just takes it. And then later on, he's like, I got a guy in this situation right now.
Yeah.
He bought a house with a woman. They had a great relationship. The problem was the cats. There were 7 of them, and they had to be separated all the time. It was problematic. So they split up
Okay.
because of the stinking cats.
Okay.
Did he go out and buy another house? No. That
Yeah.
house doubled in value while they owned it. He's sitting on his pile, and
Yeah.
he's waiting until he's got a woman to do it with. He
Yeah.
doesn't want to decorate it on his own, and then she walks in and she doesn't like it. So women who are vetoing a man for not owning a house at this very moment in time, tisk, tisk.
Oh, can I tell you something really quickly? You reminded me of a story. I this was back when I think I was 45, had been divorced for a few years, and I had a friend of mine that was hosting a party. He was also 45, but he was never married. And I invited a few women I met through this online, through I think it was Match.com or Yahoo Personals. I'm like, hey, I've got this friend that's throwing a party. There's going to be lots of single people. Why don't you bring a couple girlfriends? So when I went to go, I was about to introduce him to the women, and they're asking me questions. And they asked me, "Is he divorced?" Whatever. I go, "He's never been married." And I swear to God, all 3 of them said at the same time, "I'd rather date a man who cheated than who's never been married." I swear to God, I'd rather date it. And by the way, he subsequently met a woman, got married, and had children at age 48.
I see it all the time. Yeah, really seriously, the number one quality that
Yeah.
matters more than anything else to women in dating when we really get serious about it is integrity, trustworthiness, character, loyalty. I will ask a man or a woman right off the bat, early on in my first conversation with them, so how's your track record with loyalty?
Yeah.
And when they're, you know the answer.
So, but
Right?
but here's the thing, Julie, and I'm not. I'm going to play devil's advocate for a second. So, and I'm in full agreement: trustworthiness, kindness, all those things. And while, yeah, you can occasionally see, someone who is rude or whatnot. Those are difficult things to really evaluate on the first, second, or third date. Even vet for those things can be challenging. And I'm in full agreement. So when you talk about your top 3 things, and I recognize those are it, and you and I've had this debate because one of my top things is I want someone who's done personal development, self-help, spiritual work, because for me, it embodies my life. I mean, it represents what I'm most passionate about. And that's always been my number one thing that I vet for, even though underneath the umbrella is trustworthiness, kindness,
Yeah.
generosity, and all those things. So how do we vet for those things
Yes,
early?
it's beautiful. And you really can't tell in the first date, second date, third date. As
Yeah.
Chris Rock says, who shows up on those dates? A representative.
Yeah. I think he says the ambassador of your best self. I think it's
Oh,
the
and
representative, right? Yeah.
yeah, a representative. So that's why I say to keep your pants on for a while. I don't have a lot of rules, but I have a very strong guideline for women, especially because of the effects of oxytocin.
Yeah.
I say keep your pants on until
Yeah.
you've had an upfront, light of day conversation, no booze, no nothing, about what's your primary dating purpose. We got that from Allison Armstrong. Why are you
Yep.
dating, right? Are you looking for just lots of people to meet and just reeling from a divorce? Or are you lonely, bored? Are you looking for your last first date? Any of those answers is fine.
Yeah.
We just need to know what it is, because if I'm ready for the last first date of my life and you're just beginning the dating process, you
Yeah.
and I should be friends.
Yeah.
Even if we're attracted to each other, even if there's like sparks flying, we need to calm it down because timing's not right.
Yeah.
And so if we do that, we can actually get to know each other. I have a couple who got married and it was a year and a half before they slept together.
That doesn't
Because,
fly in my book.
well, no, listen, here's the reason. Here's the reason.
Okay.
Because she was a practicing Catholic
Okay.
and
Okay. Fair
he
enough.
was, see, this is another thing that women will often say is a red flag, and I don't blame them for saying it, but let's look at what's true with this person before we paint with a
Yeah.
broad brush. When a man or a woman is separated, not completely divorced,
Yep.
is that a red flag? Well, it could be. How about we ask some questions first? Because that's what happened with Barry and Wendy. He had been separated for 10 years. His
Yeah.
therapist is my therapist. His
Okay.
therapist and I have a 100% success rate. He sent
Okay.
me 5 people. We got 5 people in long relationships, marriages,
Yay.
amazing. So she almost didn't want to meet him because of what it said on that piece of paper. His profile said he was separated, not married, but I knew the truth. I knew what the reason was. It was a compassionate reason that he
Yeah.
allowed his wife on his health insurance program. It was before
Sure.
Obamacare, all that. And until one of them wanted to get married, they didn't want to do it because a lot of properties had to be sold, business had to be sold. It wasn't a smart idea to sell these businesses. So they waited until he met Wendy.
Okay.
And Wendy, I mean, she would come home every day and she's this tiny little thing and she'd sit in his lap. He's this big, tall guy. And she'd get all wrapped up and they would talk about their day. Neither one of them had ever been truly loved. And
Aw.
they were in their 60s when they met.
Aw.
And so he finally had the courage. I connected him with a family law attorney. They got divorced. And
Yeah.
then when the very next day he said, Wendy, put on a pretty dress. We're going down to the courthouse. We're going to get married. I'm not spending one more night without you in my bed. And they've been together ever since.
Aw. Aw. But beside the sex piece, I want to lean into something else because, and I'm in full agreement. I believe. Listen, I'll be candid with you. That's not my style to wait, but I believe trust needs to be built if you're going to be physically intimate. In other words, do you trust this person? Now, it's not based on time because we know couples who met and on their first date had sex and they're happily married today.
Right.
We know other people who waited 4 months and they broke up a week later, kind of thing. But I want to lean into the chemistry piece for a second because I'd venture to say 1/3 of my clients have said to me after a first date, I wasn't feeling a spark. I wasn't feeling a connection. I wasn't feeling it. And of those 1/3 of clients I'm speaking of, they gave, and I don't want to say they gave the guy a chance because I don't even like it from that vantage point, but they chose, you know what? I wasn't, wasn't a spark, but I wanted to give it another chance. And in those 1/3 of cases, and what I mean is out of happy couples I've interviewed, 1/3 have said to me, and I quote, I didn't have chemistry on the first, second, or third date, but something changed.
Right.
And I think we put so much emphasis on that initial, spark, magic, butterflies. And yet what changed was there was a heart connection. There was an intellectual connection that grew from that. And quite frankly, in every one of my clients' cases, I think they would honestly say the people that they're with, they feel like they're their best friend. And this friendship piece has a chemistry in it of its own that isn't necessarily sexual. So I'd love you to lean into that.
Beautiful that you said that friendship, deep
Yeah.
friendship, soul to soul connection has
Yeah.
a chemistry of its own. I
Yeah.
love that, Jonathan. Thank you for saying that. Chemistry for women, the attraction piece can be developed over time.
Yeah.
I've done 50,000 interviews with 50,000 people, and I can
Okay.
tell you that for guys, I'm sorry to tell you this, ladies, but it's honest to goodness truth. They either have the hots for us or they don't. As my sister says, we only have a shot with the guy who thinks we're hot.
We only have a shot with the guy who thinks we're
Well,
hot.
this is my sister, okay? I found her.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And this is the best marriage I know. And I found him for her
Oh,
at my husband's dating agency. And we were talking about the business of dating and all this.
yeah.
This is how this this is how frustrating it is being in like a business of dating and how passionate I am about making it happen. I'm interviewing this guy, Michael, and he's
Yeah.
just the kind of guy that all the girls that I've worked with and brought into this agency are hoping to meet. And it comes time to make his decision. And with great expectations, as with a lot of other companies, buy today, Jonathan, it's going to be cheaper. You come in tomorrow, it's going to cost you more. So better
Sure,
do it
sure,
today.
sure.
Oh,
Yeah.
God, it's awful. And so I'm saying this, but I'm so sorry. This is not my company. It's my husband's company. I didn't make the rules. It's a franchise. This is the way the business model works. I can't vary from it. Well, I'm the kind of guy, and we knew the minute you heard that,
Yeah.
I'm the kind, they're not going to buy today. And I'm like, I can't let this guy go because we knew the stats. If people walked out the door, the chances of them coming back in and buying later were slim.
Yeah.
Maybe because of that stupid first visit incentive. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I said to Michael, I said, you need to think about it, right? He said, yeah. I said, you're going to go next door to Joe Hannon's. They got a great steak. They got great wine. Order yourself a juicy Cabernet and you do all the thinking you need. And I'm going to stand here and look at the phone until you call me. And I will be here until 9 o'clock until you call me because I want you for the women in my world. And what he
Yeah.
didn't tell you is that he's like, well, how do I know you have any good people here? And I
Yeah.
pulled 3 profiles. One of them was my sister. I didn't tell him it was my sister.
Okay. Okay.
And he thought she was amazing. Well, he called me at 9:04. He made me
Yeah.
sweat. He gave me his American Express card number for $1,995, and the only person he met was Liz, my sister, and they are
Oh,
the best parents I know, the best marriage I know.
yeah.
And it bothered me that I had to get through the business of the dating agency in order
Yeah.
to make the introduction. That's why I've built things differently in my world. I didn't
Yeah.
tell anybody yet on this call, but Jonathan, I want your people to know it is free. It is private for people to be registered with me. Anybody who comes from Jonathan, I'm going to schedule a free 30-minute call. I'm going to find out all
Mm.
about you. I don't care if you live in Cleveland or Saskatchewan or if you live in the UK. I want to be able to help. So
Yeah.
I might have to add a bunch of slots so that I'm
Okay.
able to make all of these phone calls happen. But I'm interested in transforming the industry of dating.
Yeah.
I'm serious about it because the direction it's going is not where my heart is. And I want more agencies like this that allow people access.
Yeah.
And we can actually provide introductions, not only for the people spending $50,000, for goodness sake. There are 2 agencies now
Oh,
getting $1 million.
oh, well, I have something to say about that. And folks, I want to say this with all sincerity because I know I am a trusted voice to you. I am sincere when I say this. Julie is really one of the only matchmakers I would ever refer to anyone. And I make no money. I get nothing for doing this. But I'm doing this because I truly believe she is the best matchmaker out there. There's a link in the show notes. Take advantage of her free consultation, get on her list, do a boot camp, or do one of her
Consultations.
consultations or whatnot, because it's worth it because she'll put you in her database and she honestly busts her butt to connect people. And, so I just want to say that.
Thank you, sir.
Okay, I've got a little bit of a share that's kind of, I don't want to say inappropriate, but I vaguely remember about 15 years ago, I was looking at the Millionaire Matchmaker's website.
Patty.
And I don't want to say the name, I'll just say the Millionaire Matchmaker. And she had 3 tiers for the men. The first tier was 25,000, the second tier was 50,000, and the third tier was 100,000. Now, in my mind, what's the difference between third and first? But we don't want to get in this. That was for the men to register. And then there was a button for the women to register. And you want to know what it said? And I swear to God, I mean, this is my memory, so it could be a little shot. It said, be under 30 years old and send a bathing suit shot. That was it.
That sounds like Patty.
Be under 30 years old and send a bathing suit shot. And it just occurred to me that in some ways this is just paid, pornography, if you will,
Right.
or
Right.
prostitution. And
Right.
if, that's just my opinion of this.
And the different price points.
Yeah, I mean, I don't get that. Like, what more? What, you get a better quality person if you drop $100,000?
There are always people who are going to buy, who are going to want the honeymoon suite, right? There's always people who are going to buy a T-shirt for $2,500 on Rodeo Drive. There are always those people.
Okay.
And so matchmaking has become about high net worth men.
Okay.
I'm sorry, and the women who want their lifestyle.
Yeah.
And that's not where my heart is.
So my clientele is the, midlife, which I say is after baby making years and before retirement. The average person that watches my channel, probably 50 to 60, in that range, who genuinely wants a life partner. Most roughly about 75% of singles in this age bracket are divorced. Certainly if someone is, works 24/7 and has some resources, they can invest in a matchmaker. But what I like about your service is you don't have to be, a boss babe. You don't have to be an entrepreneur. You don't have to be making six figures. You cater to everybody. You cater to that person who might be that waitress we were talking about, or the school teacher.
Absolutely.
So how do
Absolutely.
you, okay, here's a question. I don't think I've ever asked this before. How do you find your matches?
Oh, matches? Well,
Yeah.
I create them, and it's not like I pull the rabbit out of the hat. If
Okay.
I'm searching for Jonathan, I'm
Okay.
going to search according to Jonathan's preferences,
Yeah.
and then a bunch of people are going to show up, and then I'm going to use my intuition to pull the ones that I think you might be most interested in, people
Yeah.
that I think you have a shot at.
Yeah.
And one of the things I always appreciated about you is you're not the guy asking me for 20 years younger. You've never
No.
been the guy. And I really appreciate that. So, but I don't have anything until I get the yes from the guy.
Yeah.
Because I learned a long time ago that
Okay.
you guys don't like rejection, but you handle it way better than we do. The reason why the
Oh,
dating industry, the reason why matchmakers won't take us girls on as clients, do you know
yeah.
why?
No.
It's very simple. They find us too difficult to please.
Okay.
And when we've put in hard earned dollars for the privilege of working with an agency or a matchmaker and it doesn't go well,
Yeah.
oh, you know that feeling I had when I spent $1,450 and I'm like, oh my God, there's nobody here. And I
Yeah.
felt like a bloomin' idiot.
Okay.
Well, I wasn't the girl who went to the agency and said, I demand a refund and I need my money back or I'm going to, well,
Yeah.
okay, there have been women and I have worked with them and I love women. I built my company so that I could serve women, but I
Yeah.
have to be very careful which men and which women I bring on as
Yeah.
matchmaking clients, because if they're not, like we talked earlier about unrealistic expectations,
Yeah.
that's why I do the consultation, because that's where the rubber meets the road. If I'm doing a consultation with you, I'm running a search in advance,
Yeah.
find out if you're sane or, excuse me, if you're batshit crazy, right? So I'm going to give you, and we're going to look at 30, 35 people together, and I'm going to watch your
Yeah.
face. And I'm going to find out, are you going for Barbie and only Barbie? Are you
Yeah.
going for women who want what you want or just have the look? Are
Yeah.
women going for the it guy?
Yeah.
Because if the person I'm doing a consultation with is only interested in the it guy or the it girl, and you know what I'm talking about,
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
well, we've got a problem, especially now because of the way online dating is, the swiping apps, all of
Yeah.
that, because the it guy gets picked all day long. It was the same thing as my husband's Great Expectations office. Okay. There was a girl named Debbie. She was super cute. She was blonde, and all the guys picked her. So
Yeah.
whenever there was somebody looking to, buy a membership, and he was on the fence, like my
Yeah.
my brother-in-law Michael was, we'd pull a couple of profiles. What do you think about this one, right? Well,
Yeah.
dog-eared Debbie. That's what we ended up calling her, dog-eared Debbie, because her profile was like all tattered and torn from the number of times that we used her profile to sell a membership. And if the guys are only going for Debbie,
Yeah.
I can't, in all honesty,
Yeah.
encourage them to spend the money if I know he has no shot at Debbie,
Yeah.
right? And the same thing, if so with women, very often we think that we should be with somebody who out earns us.
Yeah.
And he's taller, he's bigger, he's stronger.
Yeah.
Well, we forget to ask the question, what kind of woman is that guy looking for? He might be a lot more comfortable with a cocktail waitress than somebody who's, owns a law firm and is doing trial law.
Yeah.
That's not the
Jim, by the way, did you know, like from an online dating perspective, only about 5 to 7% of men get swiped right, whereas men swipe right somewhere in the neighborhood of 60% of the time. So women are only going after, I mean, this is according to Bumble and Hinge. They're only
wow.
going after for that cream of the crop, if they, in their mind, whatever that is to
Oh
them.
my God, I
Whereas
didn't know
men
it
are,
was that bad. If you can
yeah,
find
it's
that
something like
article, forward it to me because I didn't know it was that bad. I got to talk about it in boot camp.
yeah,
And the reason why we can become overly selective
yeah.
and difficult to please is we don't want to make a mistake. We don't want to make a
Yeah.
mistake. And so we're looking for those red flags so that we avoid making a mistake. But what we don't know is that the same three guys are picked by everybody. It's a real problem, which is why I
RM Bell says women are more picky. By the way, if any of you have a question for Julie, you can certainly post it in the chat box. And just a reminder, if you want to donate to the Connor Asley Scholarship Fund, there's a little $ in the chat box as well. All the monies go to the Hoffman Process Insight Institute and scholarships to coaching as well. So just so you know, every time someone donates, I'm either giving, you and I are Hoffman grads. So I just want you to know that.
And in honor of your son,
Yeah.
you fund personal growth and development for people. That is so beautiful.
Yeah. So, okay. So, God, I want to talk about, I want to shift gears. Are you tracking the whole Golden Bachelor thing?
You know what? I never turn on television. Gil's in charge of the clicker,
Well,
and I never turn it on. So that doesn't
Well,
make
let me
the
tell you
list.
what's going on, and let me give you the
Okay.
clip note version. So, the Golden Bachelor is designed for the group, the demographic from 60 to 75. And last year, they had a Golden Bachelorette. The year before that, they had a bachelor. He happened to be 72 years old. He got to pick from a range of 60 to 75 years old. The Golden Bachelorette got to pick from bachelors between the ages of 60 and 75. She was 61. Well, this year, they announced the Golden Bachelor is a man named Mel Owens, who's a former football player, lives in Orange County, California, 66 years old. And on a sports podcast a couple weeks ago, he said, I will cut any woman who's over 60 years old. I only want 45 to 60-year-olds. And if they have an artificial wig, or excuse me, artificial hip or wig, I'm cutting them. Well, it's created this whole shitstorm.
What's wrong with having an artificial hip? They'd rather have a limp.
Yeah, yeah, they'd rather have artificial lips. So I think
Why
the
is that
franchise is
sexy?
in big trouble over this, but men can be equally as shallow as women, is where I'm going with this, especially men who have means, oftentimes men are accused, and they rightfully so. They're always seeking a model that's 20 years younger, kind of leads back into the millionaire matchmaker conversation. So, I agree women are picky, but men are equally as discriminatory. This is a perfect example of this.
Yeah. The first threshold for a man is always the visuals. And it's
Yes.
not because men are superficial and shallow. It's really simple. You guys have equipment that needs to work in order for babies to be born on the planet. It's pretty hard to rape a man, okay? So the first order of business for a species is propagation. But we didn't know, and I mean, this is the first time human beings have ever lived this long. So
Yeah.
back in the day, people were dying before they were in menopause, right? And
Yeah.
now menopause is just the beginning of everything. So we still have to catch up. And I cannot get a man up off the couch to court a woman properly if first he isn't inspired by
Yeah.
her visuals. It's not fair. Did your mama tell you dating is not fair? Life is not fair? It's not fair. But it's important. So that's why we need to take care of ourselves from the outside in and the inside out so that we have a chance.
Yeah.
But the reason why men with a lot of resources tend to go younger and hotter and all of that, you know why dogs lick their balls, don't you, Jonathan? Because they
They
can.
can.
So if a guy's pulling up in his Maserati at Mastro's and there are 20 women going, woo, nice car.
Yeah.
Who's he going for? He's going for the hottest, cutest girl. Why? Because she's going to make him look great. If he walks in there with the dumpy, frumpy, well, sorry, not so attractive woman, and she's older than he is, well, his friends are going to be like, well, he's settled, right? So part of it is status. Part of it is ego.
Yeah.
And that's why we have to really take a look at it. The type of work you're doing with people, that I'm doing with people, let's look and see what really matters. How about ability to communicate? How about kindness and compassion? How about the fun factor? How about acts of service? How about when I'm having a bad day, he makes scrambled eggs for me and brings them to my desk? I mean, that's the stuff, not, is he the hottest guy? He used to say he was 6 feet, but he's not. He never really made it to 6 feet. Now he's like 5'10", a little hunched over, but he's still cute.
But it's interesting because certainly in like the movie The Materialist, the men were also superficial, the women were superficial. By the way, I want to acknowledge something you said earlier. Um, 10 or 15 years ago, I met a woman who was 10 years older than me. We were together for 6 years. My last significant relationship, she was 1 year older. So I actually prefer to date in my own range, just mainly because I like having the shared music and shared.
Yeah.
I like someone who knows what the Partridge Family is
Yeah.
and can sing the songs from the show.
Yeah.
So we have a question from Karen who says, "Where is Julie located?"
Good question. My company's based in Los Angeles,
Yeah.
and I have a huge community there. And then we relocated to Santa Fe, New Mexico. And for 9 years, I built a huge community there. And then 2 months ago, we relocated to Denver, Colorado. And now I'm building community here. But the real important thing is because of COVID and everybody getting comfortable with Zoom consultations, I don't care as long as somebody speaks the English language, because
Okay.
that's the one I'm proficient at. I'm not so good in French and Spanish. And as long as they have an internet connection and can
Okay.
follow directions, they can
Okay.
get registered. I just had a beautiful conversation today with a woman in Australia. She's in Sydney. She's
Okay.
72 years old.
Okay.
She's amazing. And I'm going to have people to introduce her to because the world has shrunk enough that I
Yeah.
have people in Australia. It's amazing. The UK. I have people in Ecuador. It's amazing.
By the way, I have two clients. One is 75, and I swear to God, she lives in San Diego. Five boyfriends now. I mean, because by the way, she's been widowed twice. So she has like, I don't want a long-term relationship, but she has five boyfriends. And I have another client, 77 years old, and all she talks about all day long is sex on our conversations.
I can't tell you
It's
how
like
many
the men
people.
that are 73 can't keep up with her.
I have heard so many lovely stories of people who are having the best love affairs and the best sex of their life, even
Yeah.
as grown-ups. I just got off the phone with a woman whose husband went through all the prostate stuff.
Yeah.
Lots of people who've been through that. Well, guess what? When we learn how to get to our happy place in creative ways and we open up in terms of communication
Yeah.
and how can we get this thing to happen given that we have some issues that we didn't have before? Well, what does that do for our relationship? We bond with each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, we have Jill who's posted a comment. She said, "How easy is it for you to decipher people who are not fake, narcissistic versus authentic and honest? Too many people have masks to hide behind because of their wound and insecurities." Now, I want to look at this question from the vantage point of you, the matchmaker, interviewing someone.
Hmm.
That's the lens I want to look at this
Yeah.
from. So
It's beautiful.
you probably are really an expert at human behavior because you've interviewed
Yeah,
tens of thousands of people in your lifetime, right?
that's right. So I know that the representative who's
Yeah.
doing the initial phone call with me, the person who's creating their profile,
Yeah.
might not have already explored their blind spots, right?
Okay.
So I believe people, I trust people, and I watch. So when I see their behavior, like where I really get to know people, is when we do that consultation and I get to see their selection process. And that tells a lot. But
Okay.
more importantly, when we start doing the introductions, if it's one of my matchmaking clients, I'm orchestrating the first date. I'm going to get your availability. I'm going to get her availability. I'm going to set the place, make the reservation, confirm with both people. Nobody gets to mess with my good work. All right. And I get to watch. How easy are people to schedule with? Are they difficult? Do they make me jump through all these hoops? If it's a mitzvah match, one of my free introductions, I don't orchestrate it. I give you both phone numbers and I
Yeah.
pray to the good Lord above that nobody messes it up. And I
Yeah.
say to people when I give them these free introductions, I'm watching you. No ghosting, no flaking, no misbehaving, no discourteous behavior. And do you think I don't hear about it when
Yeah.
somebody doesn't make the phone call? And if
Yeah.
I share the phone number and he's not right on it the first day, she's going to come and yell at me? No. Text him. Jonathan, so glad Julie connected us. What's our next step? Why does it have to be a certain way, right? You might have had a busy day. So I get to watch when people jump to quick conclusions and, oh, that's a red flag. You know
Yeah.
what? I say start looking for green flags, people.
Mm. Oh, I like that. I look for green flags. Uh,
Yeah.
by the way, it was right after my significant relationship ended at the end of 2023, and you were hosting one of your singles events. And I want to say that there were maybe 25 men and 25 women, roughly. It was the one in the Valley. And I walked out of there with two phone numbers. Now, it's kind of funny because both of the women recognized me from my YouTube channel. And we the actually there was a group of us sitting together, and it was like interesting at one point, like both of the women were sitting talking to one another and talking to me, and I was feeling a little uncomfortable. And I actually met them. You know what I did? I said, look, hey, we met at Julie's. I'd like us to just meet as friends, no pressure, no expectation. I'd like to treat for a drink, and with no pressure and expectation. Had a lovely time with both of them. There was a logistic issue with one that wasn't going to work, and the other one opened up and said, you know what, I'm still kind of reeling from my significant relationship ending. It wasn't really as complete as she hoped it was, but I made two really good, I mean, when I say really good friends, I made friends from the process.
Yeah.
What I love about you, Julie, is you really do care about the people that come into your vortex. And folks, I'm not saying this as a sales pitch. As I said, I'm not getting any money. Julie is one of my dearest friends. We have spent hours on the phone unpacking my behavior. And believe me, folks, Julie gives me a lot of crap for I'm not picky. It's just personal development, self-help, spiritual work, and psychedelics are kind of the core thing in my life. So I know it narrows my pool,
But
and you've
also,
given me
you
crap
you
for it.
like things the way you like it. You like to be where you are in the South Bay. And if
Yeah,
somebody is in Santa Barbara, I'm sorry, she doesn't get to date Jonathan. She doesn't.
yeah,
Because there's something about the South Bay. Tell me about this if you think this is true. What I've noticed about people in the South Bay is they really like being there. They're there for a reason. They
yeah.
don't want to deal with the 405 freeway or the
Well, you know,
101 freeway.
this morning I went for a walk on the beach like I always do. I always take a late morning walk, and I was walking there. I ran into my oldest, dearest friend, someone I've known from high school, and we got to sit and chat. We hadn't had a chance to catch up in quite some time. This is my hood. This is my
Right.
community. This is
Right.
my circle of friends.
Yep.
And I, like last Friday night, it was 4th of July, and a friend of mine said, "Hey, I'm going to be on the boat," and it's walking distance from where I
Yeah.
live. Now, that doesn't mean, look at my last significant relationship, she lived in Chicago, but that worked because she flew out here and she wanted to move anyway. And the relationship before that was the Valley. You remember Sherry, right?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, and I mean, I did that, but I also recognize that I have a life here,
Yeah.
and I just want to. Not that it has to be right here. I mean, I'd date someone in Santa Monica, which is 15 miles away. But and by the way, in the 405, that can literally be an hour.
I
Uh,
know. Believe me,
it,
I had 5 offices in Southern California, from San Diego, Newport Beach, West Hollywood. I know about the traffic. Believe
yeah.
me. So,
So Melt says, look for green flags, and Julianne says, picky is okay. It's going to take someone special to get me out of my fun and peaceful life too.
ooh, I love this. Okay, so this is what I really want for people is
Yeah,
to live their best life. Use this space between relationships as your sandbox, as your petri dish to build your life the way you want it to be.
yeah,
And you're not going to compromise on the things that really matter to you.
yeah,
Build the life that you love and meet people along the way. One of my superpowers is teaching people how to go about the art of flirting and magnetizing people and
yeah.
having these little calling cards that so you can say, "Nice to meet you. Here's how to find me. Oh, and by the way, my friends and I plan these great events. If you happen to be single, we'll invite you." Do you know how many relationships have been started because of these calling cards that I have
Yeah.
people make?
I didn't know that.
I don't care how people
Oh,
meet, Jonathan. I truly don't. Only
yeah.
that it happens.
I want to share with you, and then we're going to wrap up because we're coming to the end. There's this old coffee shop right across from where I live. It's really gigantic, like kind of it used to, but it's out of business now. It's like a
Oh,
Central Perk. I have a fantasy of turning it into like a bar that's you're only allowed to walk in if you're single. And so like Monday and Tuesday are the 20-year-olds and the 30-year-olds, and the like Thursday nights for the 40 and 50-year-olds, and then on the weekend it's for the 50, 60, and 70-year-olds, or whatever.
I love it. Do
And
it.
well, it costs a lot of money, but my point is, I really wish, and to some degree, my geography isn't like a steadfast, but I do believe when two people have community in a location and they can connect in that type of space where they can easily see one another, I would love to see us go back to a community-based way of meeting people.
Oh,
So I'm just a big
yeah.
advocate for that.
Oh, me too. And I really encourage everybody who's listening, create your own events. All right.
Exactly.
Have like 3 girlfriends, and everybody has to bring a member of the opposite sex to your little
Yeah.
gathering, or they don't get to come. And I do that all the time, these +1 parties. And every time women say, oh, Julie, I'd really like to come, but I don't have anybody I could bring. I'm like, wait a minute. You've been dating in Los Angeles for 5 years and you've thrown every one of them in the trash? You
Exactly.
haven't met one person who's you're happy to have as a friend? That's a big mistake.
No, I am in so much agreement. I remember, and I've got to wrap up on this one. Right after my divorce, the first few dates I went on, I actually said, "Hey, let's meet at such and such bar. You bring a couple girlfriends. I'm going to bring a couple guy friends, and let's make it a social gathering." And I got to tell you, I mean, it was really a great way to take
Yeah.
the edge off, the pressure off,
Mhm.
and connect people.
Yeah.
Listen, Julie.
I love you.
I love you too. Folks, everybody who is watching, I sincerely mean this. I am only introducing Julie to everyone because she really is the matchmaker extraordinaire. I think it's time to take a little break from online dating. Julie can help you in any state you're in. Is that true? You can help
Yeah.
them in any state
Whether
they're
they
in.
spend money or not is not my point. I want to
There,
make
there is a link below to go to our website. You can click the link. Make sure you mention my name. Julie, thanks for being
it.
on.
Thank you for having me. I don't normally work at night, but for you, I'll work.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. All right, everyone. Thanks for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. Be well. And thanks to everybody who posted a comment and chatted or posted a chat. Thanks so much. Have a
See
wonderful
ya.
evening. Bye now. Bye-bye.
Bye.